This is Up for Debate, episode number 236, recorded June 30th, 2022. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate, the debate podcast whose thoughts and prayers are with the people of Shondaloo. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by a man who, the only time he's ever said bison is when he's looking at a restaurant menu. It's Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
Bison. You ever have a bison burger?
I don't think so.
I don't think I have either.
Not because I'm, against it. I just, where would I go where that's my best choice?
I don't know. How are you doing there, Mr. DJ?
DJ. Yeah, movie with a lot of great character names. I'm doing well, Matt. I think I'm doing a little better than last week's Super Mario Brothers episode, I'll tell you that. I'm certainly less confused. This movie did not confuse me, and it was pretty darn straightforward. Stop. Why does he claw my chair the second we start? Buddy, hey.
He's getting ready to fight the minions of M. Bison. That's what he's trying to do.
And now the dog's growling at him for doing it. What is going on in my house?
He wants to do his part for the people of Shindaloo. Shindaloo?
I thought it was Shadaloo. Shadaloo.
That's the thing, and I guess that's where we can kind of start with this movie, right? We are reviewing, of course, the Street Fighter movie from 1994, entitled Street Fighter, and we could start with the pronunciation of people's names and the names of things, because it was very inconsistent throughout this movie, and I loved it.
I'm so glad you're here, Matt, because you're a student of history. And I have to be honest, I'm not as educated as you are. I have a marketing degree, all right? I'm no historical genius. So I was not familiar with the plight of the people of Shondaloo. And so I'm very curious if you can educate us all a little bit on the history of this great nation and their proud people.
Well, it's not a story that the Jedi would tell you, that's for sure. But also, I'm no Professor Layton.
Yeah.
Running joke from before we started recording. But I'm sure even the great Professor Layton would tell you that the country of Shindaloo has really been through a lot. It's got a rich history. It is a oft forgotten country that apparently is located in the southeastern Asian peninsula. At least from the title crawl, that's where it's to be affirmed. Even though it surprisingly doesn't appear on the map, I think they just show Southeast Asia as it is, and then as far as I know, they didn't have
Yeah, so here you go. I've got this from Wikipedia. Shadaloo City is a fictional location in a hostile dictatorship under General M. Bison, depicted as a drug kingpin and war criminal opposed by the Allied nations. According to maps shown during the film's opening, it is a fictitious country located in a segment of present-day Burma in Southeast Asia. It can be surmised from a song sung by Bison soldiers and two posters that the official language is Esperanto.
Esperanto?
Yes.
Which is a blend of European languages, which is all right.
Interesting.
I like that. It's because basically what I learned after watching... It took me a little while. It took me maybe about 15 minutes into the film to realize that this entire thing was a joke, Sean. This whole thing is a joke, right? Like they did this as a joke, right? Everything in the movie is a joke.
I didn't think there was anything funny about it, Matt.
Maybe it's my sixth sense of humor. I apologize.
This is a serious war film, Matt.
The
brave Colonel Guile stood up for the freedom of all of us. I don't know what's funny about that at all.
I apologize to the AN, the Allied nations. I apologize, of course, to...
we lost some good men that day. Did any of the characters die? Did any of the named characters die? I think they pretty much all escaped. The doctor, yes. the doctor character.
That guy got changed into a beast, Charlie.
Yes, Charlie.
But I think he was okay in the end. I don't know if they changed him back. I can't remember, but I think he was okay. I think everybody was okay generally.
Well, yeah, they all had to.
Lost anybody?
No, they had to jump in freeze frame at the end of the film.
We didn't even lose any like NPCs, the background character. Everybody was fine.
No, for the amount of stuff that blew up, it was pretty surprising.
Yeah, it was. So where to begin? Mispronouncing things, pronouncing a lot of things differently than I would have thought. Like, I always thought it was Ryu, but in the movie they call him Ryu a lot.
Ryu. That would have been my guess. So again, as I should point out, I know absolutely nothing about the game. Never played it, never seen it being played, have never heard of any of these characters, so total blank. I was not surprised by any of the names, and it was fun watching them throughout the movie slowly so by the end of the movie where they're all wearing ridiculous outfits, I'm like, oh, that must be what they look like in the video. Like, at the beginning of the movie, they're relatively normal, and then they all are dressed, and I'm like, oh, they had to get them in the game costumes by the end, which was very fun.
And honestly, I thought that was some of the most genius part of the movie was like starting them out in clothes that you don't expect these characters to wear. You're not really familiar, because I think if they start it with the clothes that you're used to them wearing from the video game, then it is not as fun. It's not as interesting. I think it's not now. It's like, oh well, how did they become their characters, right? And you kind of see that. It reminds me of like the current Sonic movie with Dr. Robotnik. Doesn't look like Dr. Robotnik right out the gate. He just looks like Jim Carrey. And then they got to kind of get him there, which is part of the fun.
Well, the characters start out relatively, like, normal. Like, this is, in general, for a movie based on a video game, pretty straightforward. Like, there's basically no mystical, magical, over-the-top, implausible. I mean, I know that there's a little bit, but for a movie of this type, it's kind of grounded for the most part, I would argue. I mean, certainly the dialogue and some of the action's over the top, but nothing really crosses into implausibility. Maybe the anti-gravity shoes.
I guess even the plot where you've got this military conflict. That part, what I was concerned with was I was like, all right, they've shown a lot of weapons, right? In the first couple scenes, there's tons of, like, a lot of guns and tanks and military stuff. And it's like, the name of the movie is Street Fighter, and the games are based purely on martial arts fighting. So my whole thing was, are we going to see a lot of, like, military combat? Or, like, how are we going to get the street fighting? Like, the hand-to-hand combat? But they actually do a pretty convincing job of being able to squeeze that in. And you don't really see a lot of gun action until probably like the latter half of the movie. Probably like the last
Nobody gets shot.
When they finally storm M. Bison's hideout, nobody gets shot. No, it actually was pretty neat. The way that they made it a lot more like they're more lethal with their martial arts style than the guns are. So
yeah, I mean, and we'll get into more of the plot and the actors and all this, but I'm going to come right out and say it, Matt. I'm not going to hide my feelings here. I thought this movie was awesome. I thought this movie was great. This movie, to me, is everything I want in a video game adaptation movie. Like, it's stupid enough to be amusing, but not so stupid I hated it. And it was like action-y enough where it wasn't boring, but not so much action I got bored with it. Like, it's very hard for me to keep my attention in movies, and this one I just kept watching and laughing, and I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, then once again, you can save this soundbite. We are once again in total agreement for a show called Up for Debate. Because I also love this movie. I can't deny it. I thought it was great. I thought that even like you said, the dumber parts of the movie were not dumb enough to ruin my enjoyment of it. In fact, I think it only really enhanced it and made it more memorable. My favorite part of the dumbness is probably just Jean-Claude Van Damme in general. Not that he's dumb, but the fact that you make him the commander of the AN forces. He's got like an American flag on his arm, and he's like the leader. And then he has like this like very European accent.
Very funny.
Dutch? Is it Dutch? Is he Dutch? Is that where he's from?
I think that's right.
Belgium?
Yeah, something like that.
But
The
yeah,
muscles
he's
from
Belgium.
Brussels,
He's
they call
Belgian.
him. Yes.
He's Belgian. So yeah, he's got. But I love it. I love that he didn't really hide it or conceal it at all. I love that they didn't dub him over with like a more American sounding. Like they could have done any of that, but it was kind of like Schwarzenegger, right? It was like they want him to just sound like him, and they think that kind of it's very iconic, and he's very iconic in this movie and in all his movies. So I thought it was great. I thought he was like the king of campiness. Campiness is the way to describe this movie, but it's camp done well. It's camp done well because camp is very hard to pull off, and this movie does it very well.
Well, what I'll say is, I'll say two things about Van Damme. Very good one-liners. It's the collection agency, Bison. Your ass is 6 months overdue, and it's mine. Like, just very... Or the other... What was the other...
When he says that he tells the... when they're being arrested, when he breaks up the fight, and he has them, like, carted off, and he says... He says that he calls himself the repo department.
Oh, like, yes. Let me see if I can find the exact...
Is that what you're thinking
Thank
of?
you.
I think I wrote it down. I wrote down all the stupid things that they said in this movie. I love it.
This isn't... Sagat says, this isn't over, Guile. I own the sea. He says, well, I'm the repo man, and you're out of business.
Yeah. Yes.
Because they're not even good one-liners. That's the thing. I think my favorite has to be when it's the nerdy official guy from the AN trying to tell him that they're going to thing it. And he says... Colonel, have you lost your mind? And he goes, no, you've lost your balls. So serious.
But it's like simple stuff, but like you don't hear it in other movies. So they're not like ripping anybody off. Whoever wrote these one-liners, I think personally, like deserved their paycheck that day and every day after that. They did a great job. I also said that AN shill looked a lot like Fred Armisen. Did you think he looked like Fred? I thought he looked like Fred Armisen a little bit.
He looked like...
Just kind of like how we had almost like the Phil Hartman look-alike in the Mario movie.
I'm going to have to see who he is, because I swear he's from another movie I'm thinking of. But I'm going to have to dig into IMDb and see if I can find him.
Ken has some pretty stupid lines in this movie. I think they really portray him as like a very like kind of like a very dumb character, and I don't know if that's necessarily how he is in the. He just seems like he's very aloof or something. That was like his one character trait was being stupid. So they give him the line when he's like in the M. Bison. Or not M. Bison. He's in the Saget's like underworld. He goes, "Wow, this place makes Detroit look like Disneyland."
Yeah, I was like, "What a slam on Detroit!"
Yeah, take that, Detroit. You suck.
It's like really suck it. Yeah.
So, yeah, he had some good ones. Also, are you with me? Or I'm not sure if he said this or Ryu, but are you with me? Or I think Ken said it. M. Bison says, "Are you with me or against me?" when he captures them and brings them back to the lair. And Ken says, "Is that multiple choice?" Which doesn't really make sense. Like, why would you say that? Are you with me? I guess it technically is multiple choice, but there's only two choices. It's not like, I don't know. It was a very, I mean, I get it. I give him like 3 out of 10 because it's like, it's quickness, but it's like not, you didn't pull off the joke there. I think he needs to take a page out of Guile's book. And he should have said, "No, you lost your balls." Oh, wait. No, I'm reading the wrong line in the script.
Well, you know what? One thing I appreciated, though, is they did spread the love on the one-liners, because I think every character at one point had a Winky one-liner. Zangief was very funny to me. Because he played the dumb guy at one point. He was looking at one of the zillion monitors in this movie where something bad was happening. He goes, "Quick, change the channel!" on one of the monitors. He had a lot of great lines too. But can I tell you something, Matt? Because I kind of have a controversial opinion here.
All right.
I think Jean-Claude Van Damme was among, if not the weakest part of the film. I did not think he was good in this. I really don't. I think the rest of the cast outshined him.
Wow.
Now, part of it, I think, is how it was written, because he's not in that many scenes.
Well, it's
like, he's
hard,
not.
right?
I wouldn't say he's.
He's got to share a lot of space with a lot of different.
Of characters.
Because
they start the movie separated.
Right, they do. I think it's tough. I think they did a good job giving him as much time as they could have, because he is kind of the main character, but at the same time he's not supposed to be the main character. There's the Street Fighter lore is very complex.
But he's also the biggest name actor on the film, and the film had a budget of about $35 million. They paid him $8 million of that budget. So you do the math. It's a significant fee. He was the biggest name on the poster. So I was just surprised he wasn't in it more. And to that effect, I thought everyone else was giving 110% of their performance, whether it was Ken and Ryu and their whole storyline. Saget, I thought, was great. Obviously, we'll talk Raul Julia, who was just incredible. I don't know. I just thought, like, of all of the acting in this movie, his was maybe because everyone else was so over the top, but I thought his was like, I don't know. I had a low bar. He didn't really hit it. That's just my thought. I didn't love it.
I don't know. Yeah, see, I disagree. I think he did a great job. I wouldn't say that I even made a note of who my favorites were. Raul Julia and Ming-Na Wen. I thought that both of them were in charge of this movie.
She was great.
I wrote down. I said that they were both in charge they were in charge. So, but I thought that he did fine. I thought that he was, his role is like, he's not the main character. I think even in the games, I remember Ryu and Ken were kind of both the main characters in the games, and like it implied like this conflict between like Guile and Bison, but not like I guess like you said it. Yeah, I guess it was to mainly sell the movie, because you got the big
nobody wants a main character named Ken.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they didn't cast Van Damme as Ken, because Ken was largely forgettable in this movie to me, other than just the random stupid things that he said. Actually, the movie would have been better if he was just mute the whole time.
All right, come on. I don't like. Was he good as a No, with Ryu, I thought the two of them were very funny the way they played off of each other. I also thought it was smart to put Chun-Li with the news crew. Again, it was like all these sort of small groups throughout Raul Julia and his crew, and like having these small interplays, I think, was a really smart way to construct this movie. Introduce you to the characters, and then towards the end of the movie, they all come together and sort of smash up and intermix. I think it was smart, because I do think if you wrapped the whole movie around Jean-Claude Van Damme, I don't think it would have been as interesting.
True. No, and it's in this kind of movie, you got to give love to all the characters.
And I will say, this is because I had to look it up where this is in Jean-Claude Van Damme's career. And this is literally the absolute utmost peak of his career, December of 1994. Prior to this, he had quite a run. Universal Soldier, Nowhere to Run, Hard Target, and then right before, earlier in 1994 was Time Cop, the most successful film, essentially, of his career, until you get to The Expendables and some of that later stuff he guested in. But as a leading man, it was Time Cop, and then a Street Fighter came out in the same year, and after that, his career just sort of fell apart following that.
I just read it here on the Wikipedia page that D'Souza, the director, he was not actually going for a fighting movie. He didn't want to make a martial arts movie. He said he described this film as a cross between Star Wars, James Bond, and a war film. Do you think that it hits that target?
You know, first of all, if people don't know, Stephen E. D'Souza, a huge writer of action films, including Commando, 48 Hours, one of my favorite movies, The Running Man, Die Hard 2, Beverly Hills Cop 3, Judge Dredd, an absolute famous writer. And I would say I was watching this movie and I felt very James Bondy. I really, really did. I was like, if it was Pierce Brosnan in this movie, it's of that campy 90s sort of one-liner-y, over-the-top, warlord kind of. I'm like, okay. Like, there's a technology angle. Again, all the James Bond villains were very high-tech guys. Yeah, this felt extremely James Bondy to me. And I loved that fact about it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that now that since I read it, I could kind of see all those things in there, which all those things were really popular at the time, right? Early '90s, Star Wars, James Bond, war films. You had like that was the time of like Saving Private Ryan was still like 4 years away, but it was a couple other war movies out by that time, and he cited Super Mario Brothers as an example of how
what he
not
didn't
to
want to
make a
do.
video game movie. Yeah, that's what he didn't want to do.
Smart man. And this is very not
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers.
I'm
I will
very
point out, by the
glad.
way, because I had to Google this.
Yeah,
I'm very bad with years, but 1 year later, GoldenEye comes out, and this is feels very GoldenEye. So I can totally see the parallels for sure.
so we went over GoldenEye and we went over all the James Bond movies. We also ranked all the villain plans at the end. How would you rank M. Bison's plan? Right, that was some of my favorite parts of when we did the James Bond series was ranking the plan of the villain. How is this? Is his plan? Where would you put it on the scale of Bond villains?
That's an outstandingly good question. I think up to the point forgetting what he wanted to do moving forward, getting up to the point he was at in the film, what a great job. Like, this guy, as explained in the film, warlord who slowly builds his way up. He's taking over territory. He's buying and selling drugs, and then he sells drugs to buy high-tech weapons. I think at one point it says he has an arsenal that, like, matches anything in the Western world, which is, like, incredible. And he has all this crazy monitors and technology, and it's very high-tech, very James Bond villainy. I think getting up to the point he got at, literally the AN was going to pay him $20 billion for some hostages. Like, this dude is in charge. Now, the idea, at one point he talks about eventually he wants to take over England next and, like, kill the Queen and all this kind of stuff. I think his head got a little too big. Right, and force then he has his own currency that he's going to make the world currency. I think if he had left, because at one point he has that awesome model of his city that he's going to build, which they hilariously destroy in a Godzilla joke with the two big guys crushing it later in the film. I think if his plan was just like, I'm going to own Asia and build my city, and it's going to be like, I think he could have actually succeeded in doing that. Like, he seemed most of the way there. He had satellites and shit in 94. So I give him big thumbs up. However, I think his grand plan was a bit of a stretch. What did you think, Matt?
Yeah, I thought that the currency thing was really interesting. I was like, oh, like his plan isn't stupid at all. Like, his plan actually is kind of intricate. Like, he wants to create his own currency, and that's I think he tells who does he tell about it? Is it Zangief or is it
Zagat at one point, because he tries to pay him in that money,
right? And
then
Zagat
later,
gets like mad and throws the money in the fire, and he's explaining his plan. And he's like, actually, it sounds kind of interesting. Like, he wants to introduce his own currency. Like, he's kind of talking about like a cryptocurrency that he's going to kind of like control or manipulate for his own financial gain. and he's going to use like a ground army to do it, to like enforce it.
He's
It's
got the
interesting
super soldiers, and he actually makes one. It actually worked. Like, that is such a James Bond thing that would never actually work.
Right,
But he
they would
actually
stop it,
made
like,
a
before
super
that.
soldier.
He does, right? It actually works. He has that scientist. I think as far as villains go, I think M. Bison is probably like top tier villain. Like, certainly of all the other like
certainly one of the most successful.
dumbass Bond villains that we've talked about on this show, talking about sending people to space and creating a space eugenics program, or like, for some reason the Moonraker villain really always sticks out in my mind. It's like, what the hell? Like, what kind of plan is this?
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, he wasn't going to create an earthquake that was going to sink Silicon Valley into the ocean so he could have a monopoly on microchips. That would be crazy.
oh right, or he doesn't want to contaminate the gold supply with radiation, so nobody can touch the gold in Fort Knox.
Oh, James
20
Bond.
years.
Oh, our favorite.
50 years or however long it was.
Listen, if M. Bison was a Bond villain, he would definitely rank very high. So even outside of his plan, just as a villain,
like,
Raul Julia, unfortunately, in his final role, was immaculate.
Yeah, and definitely unbelievable job that he did as M. Bison. I looked up a little bit about Raul Julia, and he was like a Shakespearean actor. Like, he acted alongside a lot of famous people. He acted alongside Meryl Streep. He acted alongside Meryl Streep in a Shakespeare play, Taming of the Shrew, and alongside Christopher Walken in a revival of Othello. So he was also in The Rookie. Clint Eastwood's The Rookie. He was in Francis Ford Coppola's One from the Heart. He also won Golden Globe. He was nominated for 2 performances for the Golden Globe for The Tempest and Kiss of the Spider Woman. Oh no, it's just The Tempest. Yeah, The Tempest and Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Yeah. Also a 5-time Tony nominee.
Yep, Tony nominee. He was alongside Al Pacino, The Panic in Needle Park. So he did a lot of really great work. And he did all of that, and then his role as M. Bison in the Street Fighter movie was his final role, his final acting role. But I think they gave him a very nice...
He did win a Saturn Award for.
Yes, he did. And I think he was posthumously nominated. He got some posthumous nominations after that also for this role.
Yeah.
So
no, and the reason he did the movie was because his kids loved the video game. What a great story! And he actually was fighting cancer while they shot it, and passed away from a stroke not long after. So a real tough story there. But I think he was. I mean, some of the speeches he gave. And again, walking that incredibly fine line with being a megalomaniac character, but not having it come off as over the top. Like, it was borderline believable, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, it was great. His performance ruled, and it was amazing. He was in like, if you name a musical, he was like, or any type of play for that matter. He was in a lot of plays, won a lot of awards, so he's great. Raul Julia. He got a nice send-off at the end of the movie. And I guess there was talk of a sequel, but then that kind of died out. And did you watch after the credits?
No, I actually only read that the scene was there. I should have checked.
Okay.
That he's revived and comes back.
Yeah, a quick scene. He's like buried in the rubble of his like hideout, and I thought that was done really well too. They have the as the credits are like slowing down at the end. The last credit is for Capcom, the game company behind the video game, and they say then you hear like the word. It's like a bunch, like kind of like a garbled computer voice, like a voice malfunctioning. And then you could kind of make out that it's saying battery, emergency battery rebooted, or solar battery rebooted. and it says it like, and every time it says it, it's more and more clear, and then finally it says like solar batteries rebooted, and it's his battery of like his life support system, and then it shows him like the fist coming out of the like rubble, and then you don't see him at all, you just see his hand, and it's like it's a really old like early 90s computer screen, and it says like, what file will you access today? And then the hand goes to like world domination, and it says retry. And so he clicks retry,
yep.
and then it goes. I thought that was a great post-credit scene.
Yeah, there were some clever
away,
video game references. I mean, he sort of controls his little hovercraft with a joystick and like an arcade buttons, and there are a few little video game jokes in there.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like they were shoving it down our throat every chance they got, like in the Mario movie. Like the Mario movie, it was like, it seemed very forced, and it was forced in weird situations. It was forced in like where. Well,
but I also think it makes. And next week we're going to do Mortal Kombat. I think we're going to learn as we go through this that certain games make sense to adapt and certain games don't. And I think this. I was impressed, so I did a little bit of research on the game, but I was impressed at how much was created whole cloth for the movie that wasn't part of the canon in 1994 yet, and how much it just naturally made sense. Whereas with Mario, I think there was so much canon already established by 1993 that they kind of were stuck with it. So I think it was nice that they had the flexibility, like, how do these characters know each other? Like, where would they interact? And those sorts of things without being forced into it.
Right. And I think also, to your point, they're going off of a game that's... This movie seemed a lot more confident and comfortable with itself than the Mario movie. I'm thinking maybe we'll see that from the Mortal Kombat movie as well. Like it knew what it was and it knew what it was not. And the Mario movie, it had a lot of identity confusion, where it was like a movie that's supposed to be for kids, but then you have scenes where people are getting transformed into dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs are like hyper realistic looking. They're not like kid dinosaurs. Yeah. And then you also have scenes where like there's besides the upsetting imagery, you have like some kind of adult things going on, and here it's like, okay, we know our audience is, it's like older, a little bit older maybe than the Mario audience, and yet like a lot of it's very cheesy, it's very campy, it's very like silly. Where I think the Mario, you got all that stuff going on, they try to make it campy, and it's hard to fit those two things in one. It's like you're going for horror, but you're also going for camp, but you're trying to direct the movie at young kids, and that rarely works. So I think that this movie knew its audience and knew what it wanted to be. Yeah. How would you rank Bowser's?
Yeah, I would agree.
King Koopa. How would you rank King Koopa's plan from last movie compared with compared with M. Bison's, I guess, or any Bond villain? We should make like a scale. A Bond villain scale. It would be like
one of those four corners charts.
Yeah, Goldfinger would be like all the way at the left end, like the worst end, where he wants to irradiate gold for some reason. I think
that's a good plan. Hang on, I'll challenge you. Stupid. That's a good plan.
Really stupid.
He had a good plan. Come on. I'd have to go look at my notes as to what I ranked. I might have my notes actually.
And then I think he would be on one end, and then I think you would have Rami Malek's plan, Safin's plan from No Time to Die. I think he had one of the best plans of all, which was he was going to
actually, Matt,
poison everybody with nanobots. Yeah,
I found my Bond rankings.
Yes,
because I wrote them down in an Excel sheet. I found them, and just so you're aware, this is my list. My number one best plan was Dr. No. Actually, using a radio beam to topple rocket launches. So simple, yet effective.
Yeah. Actually, that is a good plan. I think we agreed on that.
And then my worst plan was Casino Royale, where you're just recouping lost money by winning in a poker game. Not a great plan. That's kind of his whole plan in the movie, is to make money playing a poker game.
Not quite as dumb as irradiating gold so that nobody could touch it.
No,
And use
Goldfinger.
it.
That was my number 5 best plan. Here were my other worst ones. This is going to be
But
about
it's only
Bond,
a
but
specific select amount of gold that would barely really do anything to the economy.
I think
at
it
all.
would have. I disagree. No, I had a Blofeld and You Only Live Twice, which was he was capturing space capsules to trigger a war between countries, which I thought was whack. And then Live and Let Die, where they were dumping heroin into the U.S. market to drop the prices, then take it away to create a monopoly, which I also thought was pretty overblown. So anyway, in case anyone was curious, I would looking at this list now, I think Bison probably top 5, pretty good.
But where does King Koopa's plan rank?
Well, again, I would challenge you because I would say if you go to the point of the movie, he was very successful. He was running the city, like he was in charge. He had deposed the old king, and the coin was called Koopa coins. Like he ran the goddamn city. He was everything. He was the ultimate dictator. Just be okay with that. Like, why do you have to merge dimensions?
No, see that that was
you're
where it
taking
lost
it
me.
too far.
Yeah,
You've already won.
Right. He basically had. He had already. He should have just been happy with that, but he wasn't. He was selfish.
And what, did he really think he was going to take over the human realm? Like, they clearly have better weapons.
They have an army.
And better technology.
Many armies. Many
and
armies.
resources.
Yeah.
And by the way, humans cover the whole globe. There are like several billion of them. How many... Koopa City was the only active place in the alternate reality planet. How many people live there? Like, I think we just outnumbered them. Bad plan. So good villain, bad plan.
See, it would have made more sense if he was going to expand outside of Dinopolis or Dino Hatton, and he was going to go to like other places in the alternate universe. Because presumably that's not the only place in the alternate universe. Maybe those places, the other places don't have armies. Maybe they're all like.
To me, that's a better rewrite.
Toad people.
I would adjust and say putting the crystal into the meteorite doesn't merge the realities; it flips them. So everybody in Dino Hatton goes to Earthrealm, and everyone in Earthrealm has to go, and that's how they take over Earth, by getting rid of all the Earth people. That makes more sense as a plan to me, and if that's the plan, it's a damn good one.
Unfortunately, they didn't really explain any of it.
Did not think.
But this plan, I thought this plan was great. M. Bison's plan, to get back to him, because this plan was realistic, it was simple, it was very easy to understand. He even had a step 2, right? He's going to kidnap the Queen of England, and then he's going to like hold her for ransom and force Parliament, I guess, to accept his currency, like M. Bison coin, M. Bison current dollars. Interesting. Also, assuming that I got the vibe that in this universe, it was like a time where all of the armies formed like one. Like the Allied nations are like what's the lore on the Allied nations? The AN.
It's the UN with a different name.
Like,
I don't think they really got much farther.
See, I got the vibe that it was more
90%.
powerful. I thought it was like all the nations just were now allies, and they have this army called the AN, which is kind of like the Earth Defense Force.
No. I think it is a UN allegory. Was my guess anyway.
Yeah,
because they didn't seem more powerful than the UN. Did they? What did they do that the UN couldn't? The UN has peacekeeping forces.
Yeah, I guess they really didn't. Yeah, they didn't like. No, they are probably.
And then why would you, if you?
The UN.
Yeah.
And they even call them
that was
peacekeeping
weird.
Forces. I don't know.
Because
otherwise, then his plan isn't that great, because like the British have like the SAS and.
But that's my point. They were going to pay him the ransom money. Like, he's winning. He's succeeding. That's what's crazy. It's like the idea that he used the drug money to buy the advanced weaponry. Like, that's so smart. Like, that's a good idea. So I give him
some good plans.
A lot of credits. And I was trying to find his big, long speech that he gives that's very inspirational about what he's trying to do. But I did find this quote when he's speaking to the architect of his little bison city. And he says, "The temple above us was a wonder of the ancient world. Bisonopolis shall be the wonder of my world. But I think the food court should be larger. All the big franchises will want in." which is a great line.
Oh yeah, yeah. He had some good ones.
Because he does. That's kind of his angle, is because he claim. I mean, he does it in like an insane way, but he wants to create peace in the world by ruling all of it and forcing people to have peace. So
he was an enterprising individual. He had a lot of ideas, and I think his ideas were pretty good for a villain. There are a lot of good villain ideas.
So basically, we're pro Bison, is what we're saying.
The thing was, I was unclear about why does he take those hostages in the beginning of the movie? Is it to incite
to get $20 billion?
He's going to ransom them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe he would have...
Smart. That's wise. Like, what I really liked is when they, in the beginning of the movie, when Chun-Li is interviewing Guile, and Guile says, like, we're coming for you, hostages. You hear me, Charlie? Like, specifically mentioning one of the hostages by name.
Smart plan.
Thereby signaling him out to the villain that he is important. Bold move. Because now, like, is he going to get tortured? Is he going to get executed on the spot? Like, you have now singled out one of the many hostages for, like, being special or important. And I don't know hostage negotiation 101. It's not part of my training, but I would guess you don't want to do that. I'm guessing that that's a bad idea in any kind of hostage negotiation, is to single out one hostage and put them above the welfare of the group. Because if you know that person is more important, right, the hostage takers will, like, either extort them for more money or torture them or maybe kill them. Like, there's a reason, like, based on their motivations. So...
Yeah, I think, and again, that's when my mind then goes to the poor screenwriter who had to write this film. And, like, how do we turn one of them into a big green Hulk guy? And they, like, had to connect the dots all the way through. And you're like, oh, if you backtrack it from he has to be a green super soldier at the end, and then, oh, I guess Guile does have to call him out because he has to be the one experimented on. That's just funny to me, where you're right, it makes no sense, but when you have to reach that conclusion, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is, now that you mention it, yeah, because he is a big green, like, Hulk creature in the games, in Street Fighter 2. So it's kind of like, yeah, I like that. I like that they have to get there with these characters. Like the Chun-Li outfit, like, she has regular reporter. She's got, like, regular reporter clothes for the entire movie, and it's just like when M. Bison, like, captures her, he, like, makes her wear that, like, really cool red dress that she wears in the game. It's like, oh, that's how she got that dress. That's kind of cool. Like, for Guile, is Guile just in that costume the whole time, or is it like?
Yeah, basically. That's. I mean, in the game, it's basically army fatigues. I mean, it's nothing
right
too hard to get into.
No, but it's just I really like how they got everybody there. It's like, oh, and then by the end,
but I appreciate it.
They all, like, pose together.
So funny. Balrog, at one point, he gets his... Balrog has... Because he's a boxer, as he is in the games, and at some point he just gets boxing gloves. And I don't think it's ever really explained where he gets them from, but suddenly he has boxing gloves. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Totally don't have to. It's just like, all right, he found them somewhere. I don't know, maybe Bison has them somewhere. Well, Bison has that whole, like, training area where they train, like, the henchmen. Which I really
Ken
like
and Ryu get their karate
they
outfits.
Bring Ken and Ryu down there, yeah, to get, like, trained, and they this is where we all trained to fight the AN forces.
And I thought the fighting was not bad in this. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like the best martial arts I've ever seen, but I thought it was relatively passable.
No, and it wasn't exhausting. Like, that is a concern with some martial arts movies, is that it gets exhausting. It gets to be, like, too much fighting. And this wasn't that. It did not overstay its welcome at all. I thought that it was a perfect balance. Perfectly balanced amount of action and story. But, yeah.
And, Matt, the best thing I can say about this movie is it ended on a freeze frame where all the characters jump and then the logo comes on screen. Does movies get any better than that?
Had to end that way.
I think they even all said, yeah!
Yeah! Street Fighter. That was great.
Freeze frame.
Yeah, I think all of the future movies that we watch this summer they've left some big shoes to fill right here.
I would agree. I think by the end of this, I'm hoping we can have figured out what the sort of our best adaptations are. I'm not even looking for a good film. My goal for this summer, and then eventually if we do some later video game movies, is to figure out what is the ultimate adaptation of a video game to a movie. And I think for early video games, where they had less plot, they were simpler, the graphics were simpler, there wasn't as much to work off of, I think Street Fighter hits the time right. Because these were the kind of movies that were being made and were relatively popular. This was a financial success at the box office. Made $100 million then. That's about $200 million now. And it was a relative hit. I think Mortal Kombat's going to be interesting because it's similar but more mystical, so I'm curious how they handle that. Lara Croft Tomb Raider, I think, might be its best sort of competition for the running. We'll see. But I think of the 90s films, this was a good one. I would consider watching this again. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of rewatching, as with tradition, we've got to see if they have a drinking game.
I don't know if the movie's popular enough. It did bother me. I will say, Matt, I think if I watched this in 1994, I wouldn't like it as much. Because there is some sort of retro aspect to movies used to be made this way, quote unquote, ness that I liked about it, with the more legitimate fighting scenes, no CGI, very practical, lots of one-liners. So I do think it gets some extra points being so far away from it.
They actually do have one. It's pretty basic, though.
Okay.
Would you like to hear it?
Sure, of course. We have to talk about these before we do the movie so I can drink while we're watching it.
One day we will. I want to find a... all right. This is the only one I can find. If you listening at home and you find a better one, add us. But the best one is... Oh, wait. Yes, this is... Okay. I found a better one. But it's not letting me get to it. Okay. I found a better one. Okay. Okay. Do you want to try to guess what's on it?
No, because I really don't know what they would do. Every time M. Bison talks about being a god, take a drink.
Close.
Every time Cammy says Guile. Every time Chun-Li says the name of the network she works for. But I don't think any of these happen enough to make it.
What I have here, every time Bison or Bisonopolis is mentioned, which actually is a lot. That one.
That's his name.
Right, that's his name.
That's not a good drinking game.
Cut it to Bisonopolis when he talks about Bisonopolis. Sure. Every time the word home is uttered, which I thought is very smart. Because it's not, remember, home. You want to go home? Everybody here wants to go home? They mention it quite a bit. Once we do this, once we beat Bison, we can go home. The goal is to beat Bison, and then we can all go home. They mention it. It's it's nice because it's spread out throughout the movie enough. It's not all just packed in one scene. But they do say it does. They do say it quite frequently. It's this is now my Shadalu is now my home. Welcome to my home. It's there, and but it's not. I don't think it's there enough where it's going to kill you. Every time someone flexes or strikes a pose, every
Okay.
time
Yeah, that's a good one.
someone gives a cheesy line or pun, which is basically every time Guile
Okay.
opens his mouth, or Ken, every time a new major player is introduced to the film,
Okay.
every time a special move is performed in the film, which I don't think
That's
that
a good one.
happens all that. It does happen, but not all that much.
I don't.
And lastly, every time a character throws a punch for real, like a real punch, that's an interesting one because that doesn't happen that
Yeah,
much.
I'm not impressed so far.
When a character changes their clothes into their real Street Fighter outfit, finish your drink.
There you go. Yes, that's a good one. I like that. I like that one a
And
lot.
when Bison says "game over," finish your drink.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. I would probably add every time Bison's automated computer lady talks, take a drink. Because she talked a weirdly large amount. I would say every time there's a CRT monitor on screen, take a drink. Because there were a lot of those.
Yeah, I forgot that the last one was whenever characters interact through TV screens is also taken.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a solid one. Yeah.
I like that.
Not a great drink
I
game.
like the. I'm always a fan of the finish your drink during one of the iconic moments, parts of a drinking game, because then it's seems like a celebratory moment, and I think that's a really good one when game over. Yeah, yeah. So this is a much better one, I think, than last week. And pretty much all across the board in movie and in terms of drinking game. I think it's
Yes. No, I think this one was more enjoyable. I think Super Mario Brothers was more interesting. I think it was certainly more unique, but I think this was a good popcorn cinema blockbuster kind of middle of the summer movie. Whereas I think if you took me to an art house studio and played Super Mario Brothers, I'd be like, "Huh, weird." You know, I don't think that's like a big cinema film for me.
No, it's almost. It had vibes of like a really high budget. The Mario one had vibes of like a really high budget student project. If you just discount,
If you were
like,
like,
all
did you
the
know
famous
that?
people.
If you said like, did you know David Lynch directed the Super Mario Brothers
Right.
movie? I'd be like, huh, good for him. Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Now, Matt, we've got to score this movie. Before we do that, I did forget to say probably my favorite Bison line of the movie. And I saw it here, and I didn't want to forget. When he's talking with Chun-Li, he says, "For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday." Love that line. Because it's not a funny line. He sells
delivers
it
so
so
well.
hard. Oh, that is such... I'm like, this dude's fucked up.
Yeah, he delivers it so well. Great performance. We had two
that was
very strong villain performances.
Yeah, I agree, and in totally different ways. But I appreciated, in both cases, they felt very psychopathy, megalomaniac kind of guys. So I will say, I do think, for sure, Raul Julia was putting in more work than Dennis Hopper. That was not a hard performance for Dennis Hopper. It was good, was not difficult.
No, he was definitely cashing a check.
And he wasn't doing stunts either. He wasn't being thrown around.
Nope. That's true.
Now, Matt, we have to score this film. We've scored many films in the past. What should tonight's scale be? What should we be grading it on?
Let's grade it. You mentioned that there were a lot of TV screens,
Yes.
right? So we can say TV screens, or I don't know. This one you could use joysticks because this game actually used a joystick in the cabinet.
No, I like that. Well let's rate it 1 out of 10 90s TV screens playing GNT News
Okay.
with your reporter Chun-Li.
Chun-Li, yes. Played by, I don't know if we even mentioned it, but played by Ming-Na Wen, who is in The Mandalorian now.
Oh, she's so good. Agents of
She's
S.H.I.E.L.D.,
unbelievable.
she was awesome in that.
Literally does not age because she looks very much the same.
No, she's super talented.
Yeah.
Oh, she was the voice of Mulan. I didn't know that.
Yes, she was the voice of Mulan. She did a lot of things.
Yeah, she's got a pretty rockin' list of credits here. No, she's great. So Matt, how would you rate this on the 1 to 10 scale?
I would probably give it 8 TV screens out of 10. Yeah, solid movie. I would watch it again, which is a huge thing. I don't really watch a lot of movies over. I'm not a big rewatcher, but this one I would watch again. Where did you watch your where did you get your viewing experience from? I rented mine from Amazon.
Yes,
Prime.
I did as well.
It was like
And
$4.
it looked good. It looked good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It did.
Although I will say the 4K copy of Super Mario Brothers we had looked really good. I'm going to try and see if there's 4K versions of any of these upcoming films because when you take the film and you upscale it, it looks so good.
It does. So
yeah,
what's your rating?
You know, I like that we have a different scale every time because then you can't compare it to other scores. Because it'd be like, this is out of TVs, and then back in the Bond series, we did it out of exploding space shuttles or whatever. So I don't feel like an idiot if I give this a 9 and somebody says, but Sean, you only gave Gone with the Wind a 7, and you can't compare them.
No, different
I think
currencies. Oh, we could have done bison bucks. 8 bison bucks.
Oh, we should do bison bucks. That's a good one.
The name of his were they called bison bucks? They should have been. What the hell else were you? A
really good question.
Bison dollars,
but I know if I
got to be bison bucks.
But if I Google bison currency, bison dollars,
come on, bison bucks, man! What a missed opportunity.
Well, someone wrote,
or at least bison bills.
Oh, apparently a few years ago it became a meme. A few years ago when Bitcoin first started. According to this article from 2018, where it was a meme going around and everyone would talk about Bitcoin, they played the scene from the film where Sagat's like, "This isn't real. This is you just made this up." He says this is the exact line from the film. Sagat says, "Is this a joke? This money isn't worth the paper it's printed on." And he says, "On the contrary, every bison dollar will be worth 5 British pounds once I've kidnapped their queen." And so people, I guess, used it as a meme, which is very funny.
If completely out of context, it would be actually a really funny. You could hear it like on The Simpsons. Like, I'm thinking of the guy, the guy that Homer works for, and he's actually like a. Are you familiar with The Simpsons? What's your extent?
Burns,
of your Simpsons?
yes.
No, not the
much.
guy he regularly works for. The guy in one episode, Homer quits his job and gets hired by this guy who's very much a Bond villain. No.
Okay, no, did not see that one.
Anyway, it's Hank Scorpio is his name. Hank Scorpio. So it reminded me a little bit of him because this is like something he would do. He works for him in this like volcano laboratory, like basically taken right from You Only Live Twice. It's like a Bond parody, but. How many bison bucks? Because I'm just going to call them bison. How many
bison
bucks?
Dollars? I would
bucks.
say. I think I literally just said that we can't compare the scores. But if I think of what I did, I think last week I was like a 5.5, maybe, or a 6.5, somewhere in there for Super Mario Brothers. I think this one is definitely. I'm going to go with. I'll probably back you up. I'll probably go with an 8 as well, mostly just on enjoyment. I think if I was scoring it solely on how is it as a film, it would be lower, but I think my overall score is going to scroll up a little bit just to the fact that it was just nice to watch. Like, I don't need every movie to be the Marvel, like, beam from the sky is going to destroy the universe shit. Like, I like how small and inconsequential this movie was. Like, he wasn't even threatening to blow up the Earth or anything. It was like maybe 20 hostages. Like, the stakes were pretty low comparatively. And so it wasn't, like, overly aggressive in that respect.
No, true. He was gonna. I think he was teetering on executing the hostages at the end of the movie, though. I think that's when Guile busts in and saves them. But yeah, you're right. It's I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty low scale. He wasn't like shooting missiles off or some of the Bond villains got real. One of them was going to hijack a nuclear submarine and like detonate it. Like some of them, it's collateral.
Yeah, one of them actually stole a nuclear warhead attached to an airplane.
Yep.
In Thunderball. So and I don't think you think about it, he was asking with inflation about $40 billion today. That's a big amount of money, but not an implausibly large amount of money.
No.
Like a solid ask.
No, I
back him up.
It's very tangible, yeah.
Matt, what a film. I think we definitely enjoyed it. We're off to a good... Two movies I definitely don't regret watching so far, but we'll have to see if that changes with next week's Mortal Kombat! I love the song. That's kind of the only thing I know about the movie is the theme song.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mortal Kombat?
I have not. I've played the games, some of them, but I have not seen the movies, so I'm going in completely cold to this. So I think that's a good way to go in.
Yeah, I am kind of excited. And funny enough, I actually did see the 2021 reboot. So I actually have seen that. I've never seen the original, so I'm kind of excited. 1995's Mortal Kombat. We'll be watching that next time and continuing on our movie summer. What a treat, Matt. We appreciate everyone out there for joining us. It's been great so far.
To the end of this. I'm going to run out of quarters.
Got
to get more.
Go get some quarters from your parents, Matt. Get them in the arcade machines.
I'm glad we do this once a week because my allowance it's only like 50 cents. So,
but you got to get the high score. Yeah. You got to get the high score. We certainly want our listeners to get the high score. You can get the high score by checking out the show wherever it's available, podcast form, wherever you get podcasts and video version on YouTube. Of course, you can contact us at Up for Debate TV on Twitter. Email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com. Matt, we're going to wrap it up here. We appreciate everyone joining us, as always. On behalf of Matt, I'm Sean. We'll see you next time for another great episode of Up for Debate.